Welcome to the OMG Show.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the OMG Show. So today we're going to be talking about traffic and how to drive more of it to your business so you get more eyeballs onto your potential offers, onto your website, into your calls to action. So essentially there's two main problems that a business could have at any given time. Number one is a traffic problem, and number two is a conversion problem. Okay, and more often than not, it's a conversion problem that you're facing in your business, meaning that you're getting traffic, but they're just not doing anything. Okay, now that's a separate video. Today, we're only focusing about traffic because many think that by getting more traffic into your business is going to grow. Now, yes, that is the case, but you also have to understand you need to have a converting offer in order for your business to grow, okay? And the reason why I'm coming to you from this example is because I used to, part of my business was to run ads for other businesses. And so what I ended up realizing very quickly when I just started is that I'm pretty much a big expense. I'm not necessarily an asset in the sense that, you know, if the ads aren't performing, right, quote unquote performing, then I'm going to be cut. Now, here's the thing. I could drive traffic to a website that was, you know, very reasonably well priced. However, if that traffic wasn't converting, then the business was pretty much losing money, right? So that's where I'm coming from you at, is that traffic is just one part of the problem. Conversion is the other. And if you don't know how to increase your conversions, or if you don't have a high converting offer, then traffic is going to become really, really expensive. So if we're focusing on traffic, how do we essentially drive traffic in a way that can allow us to, number one, test our offer so we can see what the conversion rates are, but also, you know, not, you know, break the bank in a sense, you know, having to hire someone like myself or someone else, you know, to go ahead and drive traffic to my site. Now, I will say that if you can afford someone to drive traffic for your business, I would highly recommend that, because there's a lot of different advertising platforms out there. And to be honest, as the business owner, your time is spent better focusing on growing the business, not necessarily inside the trenches. You should have a general idea of how this all works, but you shouldn't know the intricacies of, you know, for example, how to set up, you know, custom events on a Facebook pixel. Right. You should just know that there's a Facebook pixel and that you use it to run traffic, essentially. Okay. So anyways, driving traffic. Now, driving traffic depends a lot on the platform and what the consumers can read, or what, you know, what is going to grab their attention. Okay. So let's focus on a platform. We'll say Facebook, just because right now everyone's on Facebook. Everyone should be using Facebook. It's still an awesomely priced platform, so you can still get a lot of action with your Facebook ads. So on Facebook, you have many different placements. Now, most of the time, we're going to be looking at the news feed inside of Facebook. Okay, that's on desktop and or mobile. And so when it comes to an ad like that, there's really three main things you need to consider. There's the image, which is about 80% of the ad success. There's the headline, which is the big bold text right underneath the image, and there's also the, you know, the main text, which is kind of like the paragraph and your content, essentially. Okay, so, you know, we can set these ads up, run them, and that will drive traffic. So one part is the ad, and then the other part is the strategy behind the ad, the mechanics, right? So let's focus on the ad part in a sense, and I'll go through a simple copy framework that I like to use. So when we're writing up our ads, right, we have to understand that the image is 80% of our ad success. So we want an image that's going to either, you know, highlight the benefit of what our offer is. We're either going to pick an image that is going to highlight the pain that we're trying to solve. We're going to pick an image that is just completely, you know, out of nowhere, something that's just going to, like, when there's someone scrolling through their news feed, they kind of stop and gets their attention. And then we might even want to try an image of our actual offer, whether that's an ebook, a service, etc., etc. Okay. Now, that's the image. As far as the headline, you know, that big bold text, that's where you have to be very, you know, quick and specific in terms of what you actually want or what's in it for the user. So my kind of favorite formula is to just, tell them what the main outcome is, plus what are they going to receive, right? So better ball control, quick 15-minute workout, all right? Sell your house fast, free ebook, right? You won't be able to use this one on Facebook, but lose 30 pounds with this diet plan, right? So essentially that's it. What's the main outcome, plus what are they actually receiving? Okay, so you want to tell a benefit and a feature. So what's the outcome, and then what's the actual tangible aspect that they're getting? Okay, now as far as the copy framework, pretty much what I like to use is I always start off by asking a question. So, hey, do you want to lose weight? Hey, do you want to increase your confidence when you're playing in the baseball game? Hey, do you want to be a better parent? You always ask a question. Okay, once you ask that question, you highlight the problem. So, hey, you want to be a better baseball player? Well, that's awesome. The main problem that's stopping you from being a great baseball player is da 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 da. Right? You let them know what the problem is. Then, once you let them know what the problem is, you agitate that problem a little bit more by talking about how that problem affects them externally and internally. So, externally, what is that problem doing to their social circles, to their relationships, to their sense of self, if you will. And internally is how is that affecting them emotionally, right? Are they frustrated? Are they angry? Are they jealous? What is that problem doing to them? Is it eating them up from the inside, right? So we need to agitate the problem. So once we have those things set, then we need to go in and mix what we call like our authority points. So now you want to talk about, okay, well, who are you? Why do you have the right to talk about this? And what did you find? Okay, so you pretty much want to say, well, I've played baseball for the past 30 years with, so-and-so team, and I've worked with thousands of players and coaches throughout the years. And over the years, I've found X, Y, Z. Okay, and once you transition through that X, Y, Z, the next paragraph you want to say is kind of the transition into the call to action, where you say, well, and it's because of this that I've created my XYZ to help you become a better player in baseball, right? Boom. And then after you have that transition, then you go ahead and let them know what's the cost of them not clicking on your ad, right? Otherwise, you're going to end up being on the bench and your coach is going to overlook you for the next guy, right? Something like that. Okay, and then finally, just a little call to action. Click here to get it. So that's a very simple copy framework that you can apply to your ads, specifically on Facebook, to drive more traffic. Okay, so we just went over the 3 basic rules for a Facebook ad. Okay, but now it actually comes to the strategy. So real quick, because I don't want to get too technical, because I know how it gets with Facebook, but Facebook goes from campaign, ad set, and then ads. Okay. One campaign could have many ad sets, and within each ad set you have many different ads. So if you only have $5 a day to spend, right, that's not a very low end. Ideally you have $100 a day to start, just to test. But if you're starting on the low end, right, what you want to do is create one campaign, 5 different ad sets at $1 each, okay, and then within each ad set you want to put at least one ad. Okay, you want to make sure that that one ad is the same ad throughout all the ad sets, so that way you have the same social proof and everything. But that's how you want to set up your campaign. You want to let that run for a couple days, at least 72 hours, because depending on your market, for example, if the average cost per lead in your market is $25, then it might take you 5 days for you to get one lead, maybe. Okay, but it's a quick way to test whether or not you're going to be getting clicks at a reasonable rate, leads at a reasonable rate, and test your idea quickly rather than spending all this money and not being able to produce the results. Because if you spend $5 a day and you don't get any conversions, well, it can be a number of things. Maybe you just don't have enough eyeballs to the offer yet, so you have to increase ad spend. Or maybe you got a conversion and you're like, oh wow, my landing page is doing really well, my offer is doing really well, so now I can crank up my ad spend. Okay, but the point is that it's 2 pieces of the puzzle, and traffic is, to be quite honest, the easier one to solve. It's very easy to drive traffic to a website. Okay, especially with Facebook ads. The key to making traffic work is conversion. So tackle both of these things one step at a time. Okay, remember the copy framework, remember the 3 elements of a Facebook ad, or remember the strategy for setting up your campaign, and you could find yourself with a lot of success and eventually to the point where you can start scaling. And that is going to be a whole different topic. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the OMG Show. I'll catch you in the next one.